They sold me with a smile and applauded as if I'd won, not lost. Spotlights bloom over me like pale flowers, too bright to be real. The stage used to be a stage. Velvet curtains, chipped gold leaf, the whole grand lady of the theater thing. Now it's a marketplace for people like me. The orchestra pit smells like money and mothballs. The boxes reek of cigars and expensive fur. I'm lot 93, male, 26, omega, well-tempered, which is a polite way to say I haven't bitten anyone recently. My wrists aren't shackled, not technically. There's a slim leather strap at each wrist that looks decorative if you squint. I'm dressed like a luxury problem, crisp white shirt, black trousers, a bruise carefully placed on my cheekbone for contrast. Someone in staging thought it added drama. They were right. The auctioneer's voice slides over the crowd like oil. Lot 93, he purrs, River Monroe. Registered, educated, special skill, journalism. He lets the word linger, then smiles. A journalist with teeth. I keep my face bland. Cameras lurk in the dark, like fish with red-lensed eyes. Their dots blink, blink, blink. Somewhere out there, I want to believe Jules is watching, whispering at a monitor, "River, you absolute idiot." He's not wrong, but journalism isn't a hobby you pick up to make friends. It's a knife you learn to hold by the blade. The house is full. Wolves in tuxedos and silk gowns, humans with polished names, investors who never admit where the returns come from. Clans like to mingle in places that pretend to be neutral. Pretend being the crucial term. My nose does the thing I try not to let it do in public. It works. Scents curl through the heat. Leather, smoke, the high brine of oysters from the intermission buffet. Under it all, a thread of something else. Cold air, stone after snowfall. The clean metallic promise right before a storm. It snaps my spine straighter. I find its source in the second tier left of center, where the light breaks and can't quite gather again. He doesn't belong here. That's the first impression. He sits too still, as if stillness is a kind of armor. Tall, hands like decisions, the sharp, quiet weight of an alpha with nothing to prove. His eyes are not something to catalog. They are an instrument of measurement. They make me think of winter lakes. You don't fall in, you misjudge the thickness of ice. "Turn for us, sweetheart," a woman from a corporate box calls, pearls chiming against her throat. The handler's fingers press my elbow. Polite, impersonal. I turn. If you're already on the platter, you might as well control the angle. The auctioneer says a number large enough to make the room inhale at once. Time narrows into a line. The red camera lights, the burn in my shoulders, the way my pulse ticks against the strap of the microphone hidden in the waistband of my trousers. The transmitter should be sending, unless they jammed the signal. Of course they jammed the signal. Professional event management, their brochure bragged. Cute. The man in the half-light lifts a paddle. He does it like he's noting a fact, not spending a fortune. Silence folds over the room. Going once, the auctioneer sings, thrilled. Going twice. 3, I whisper with him, and the gavel cracks like a tiny bone. Polite applause. Some people stand. The woman with pearls dabs her eye, as if charity work makes her emotional. The alpha in the shadows doesn't clap. He stands, smooth and unhurried, as if gravity consults him before acting. That clean cold scent crosses the room and beads along my skin. I keep my smile on. It's a habit that has saved me from worse rooms than this. Smile like you chose the outcome. Smile like you have a plan. Backstage is cooler. The theater's bones show here. Concrete, ropes, old chalk marks. I catalog exits like it's a spiritual practice. Steel door left to an alley. Catwalk. Staircase. Emergency corridor that smells like bleach and a too recent mopping. Cameras hide at the corners, their little red eyes domesticated by dust. He's waiting near the service elevator. Up close, the scent is even sharper. It should smell like danger. It smells like clarity. River Monroe, he says. He pronounces it like a diagnosis. Not yours, I say automatically, because defense mechanisms are comfort food. A speck of movement at his mouth. Not quite a smile, more like a pencil check mark. Kain Ashford, come. He doesn't touch me, Most buyers put their palm to an omega's neck like it's a suitcase handle. He keeps his hands at his sides, casual as a blade. The two security men with him take one look at his face and retreat into the nearest wall. Interesting. The elevator is mirrored steel. In our reflections, I look younger than I am. Too much light on the bruise, too much shadow under the eyes. He looks like he's waiting for something I can't see. For the record, I say, because silence lets thoughts get bigger, you bought me for a price people usually reserve for beach houses. That implies expectations. Expectations are a currency that devalues quickly, he says. His voice isn't deep so much as precise. I prefer contracts. Contracts? I laugh, too sharp. With a lot number? With a hazard? He looks at me, and there's no heat in it. Only geometry. Hazards should sleep where you can watch them. So you... I squint at him. You bought me as a guard dog? No. He doesn't blink. As bait. The elevator bell dings. For a second, my skull holds too much noise. Then my mouth remembers how to shape a smirk. Bait for who? For the people who intended you not to reach print. Print. The word goes through me like a wire. My thumb twitches. The transmitter tucked against my hip is probably fried, but habit is muscle deep. My investigation, months of names and numbers and night calls that made my neighbor think I was cheating on sleep itself, should have gone live tomorrow. Should have. Unless you disappear, Jules had said, half joking. Then I run the dead man's switch. The switch depends on a packet that depends on me being able to send a final key. The key depends on me not being sold like a collectible. I lean back against cool metal. And you, let me guess, you bought me to nobly save me? I say it's sweet and poisonous, not out of any love for the press. Love is not an efficient motive, Kain says. It does not survive entropy. I hate that my laugh is real. And rationality does? It endures longer. The doors open into a private corridor, industrial clean, the kind of space you only see in hospitals and buildings where the owner hates surprises. The handler tries to step forward. One glance from Kain sends him elsewhere. Outside, a black car idles at a curb half hidden by scaffolding. The driver is human. He looks through me like I'm a reflection of something he doesn't want to recognize. Kain opens the door and waits. Waiting feels like a command. I slide in. The leather is cool. The city is a scroll of lights unrolling itself. We don't speak for 3 blocks. I inventory again. Streets, alleys, where the pavement dips, which way the wind carries sound. The winter lake scent is stronger in a confined space. It shouldn't be comforting. It is. I hate that. For the record, I say, because I can't help it. If you were shopping for a pet, wrong address. If I wanted a pet, he says without looking at me, I'd buy a cat. You're more interesting. It's ridiculous that heat creeps up my neck at that, as if being called interesting by a man who just purchased me is some kind of compliment. I tuck it away for later analysis under unhelpful physiological responses. We pass a billboard where a smiling woman sells something you can only afford if you never need it. The glass of the window holds our reflection for a blink. Him, sharp lines. Me, a bruise wrapped in bravado. I wonder what Jules sees on his monitor, if he sees anything at all. I wonder if Luca, the ex who believes in safety like a religion, has already heard. I wonder if this is the moment I chose to be stupid, or the moment I chose to be brave. In practice, they smell the same. We stop at a light. On the dashboard, a discreet brass badge catches the glow. Ashford Industries. The logo is a stylized wolf's head nested inside a legal seal. A clan conglomerate, fully licensed, publicly loved, privately necessary. Ah. So, the Winter Lake has a name. And a stock symbol. The light changes. The car slides forward into the city's throat. I touch the inside of my wrist, where a pulse lives, try to mark the beat. Not a prayer. A metronome. I don't know why Kain Ashford bought me, and I don't know why the thought doesn't hollow me out the way it should. Maybe it's the fact he never laid a hand on me. Maybe it's his eyes. Maybe it's the cold I smell on him, the kind that burns clean. Outside, the theater falls away, velvet and gilding swallowed by glass and steel. Behind us, applause is probably still happening for the next lot. Ahead, the night just keeps opening. Where are we going? I ask. Someplace with fewer eyes, Kain says. And better coffee. A joke. Or a promise. His face doesn't give it away. I sit back. Let the city smear into lines. Fear doesn't leave. It doesn't have to. I just need enough space under it to think. To write later, if later still exists. To figure out why an alpha like him looked at me and didn't see a leash. He saw a lever. The car turns, and the logo on the dash winks again. Ashford Industries. I hate that the lettering is beautiful. The night swallows us whole. The elevator stops with a sound too soft for a building this tall. When the doors open, the first thing that hits me is nothing. No scent, no sound, no trace of life. The air is filtered down to antiseptic calm. Kain's penthouse looks like a photograph no one ever touched. Concrete, glass, steel. A horizon of city lights bleeding through the windows. A skyline so sharp it could cut skin. No curtains, no warmth, not even the smell of coffee or the ghost of someone else's cologne. He walks ahead, silent, the measured sound of his shoes the only proof I haven't fallen into a museum exhibit. A single motion of his hand and the security system flickers. Doors seal. Locks whisper. Somewhere, a digital voice confirms, perimeter secure. Charming, I mutter. You run this place like a lab. Observation requires containment, he says, without turning around. I look at him, at the line of his shoulders, relaxed but absolute, and decide that if he ever smiled, the world might glitch. He gestures to a hallway that leads into the minimalist abyss. Your room is at the end. You'll find clothes, water, and food. You'll stay there until I decide otherwise. You mean until you decide what to do with me, I correct. He doesn't deny it. The guest room, or cell, depending on mood, has floor-to-ceiling glass on one side and a bed so perfectly made it could serve as a military diagram. There's a small bathroom, a terminal without internet access, and a wardrobe that probably cost more than my rent. When I test the door handle, it clicks once, firm and final. Locked. Of course it is. I give myself a slow exhale. Think, River. If he wanted to hurt you, he wouldn't bother with keycards. I cross to the window. The city hums below, glowing veins through glass. I press my palm to the pane and feel the cold tremor of height. Somewhere out there is the newsroom where I used to chase headlines, and somewhere closer, the man who thinks he owns me. I start cataloging. One of my habits. 3 hidden cameras. One in the ceiling, one in the corner lamp, one disguised as a smoke detector. The faint whir gives them away. The mirror in the bathroom is newer than the wall tiles. Possible sensor inside. Good. If they're watching, they'll see me working. I pry open the air vent. Small enough for airflow, too narrow for escape, but I note the screws, the material, the faint metallic scent. Someone polished them recently. I memorize everything. When I'm done, I take a walk around the room again just to test the angles. There's no personal smell here. Usually homes carry traces, soap, skin, oil, the residue of people being people. Kain's space smells like filtered air and stone. That alone makes my nose ache. By the time he returns, I'm on the terrace, barefoot, staring down at the glittering city like it might look back. The glass door slides open behind me with a sigh. You're not supposed to be out here, he says. I'm not supposed to be anywhere. He steps closer. His reflection joins mine in the glass. Taller, too composed, the kind of calm that unnerves. Do you plan on jumping? I plan on thinking, I answer. But thanks for the vote of confidence. His eyes trace my face, and for a second I catch a flicker. Not emotion, something else. Calculation. You're testing the boundaries. Someone has to know where they are. He almost smiles, and that's worse than no smile at all. Most people in your position would beg or panic. I'm a journalist, I say. We don't beg until after the article runs. He inclines his head slightly. And yet, here you are, headline material. That earns him an eye roll. You know, for a man who just bought someone, you're remarkably boring. No threats, no collar, no monologue about dominance. You're breaking type. I don't care about type. Then what do you care about? Accuracy, he says simply. The word lands like a blade tip. You're very calm for a man keeping another person locked up, I say, tilting my head. You're not even trying to make your purchase like you. Liking isn't the objective. His voice remains smooth, almost detached. Understanding is. That's comforting. You think I should pretend to care? I think you should try being human once in a while. He studies me for a long moment, and I can almost hear the hum of invisible data lines calculating me. Then, quietly, humanity complicates things. I prefer precision. He turns away before I can answer, but something in the air shifts. His scent, ice and ozone, brushes against my senses, and suddenly my body reacts in a way that's too primal to name. My heart races, ears sharpen, my sense of smell stretches farther than it should. Beneath the sterile air, I catch faint traces, fear, old and stale. Not his, someone else's, the echo of other omegas that have stood here before me. It crawls under my skin, a residue of terror. I swallow, dizzy. How many came before? He pauses, mid-step. Excuse me? The ones who stood here. You scrub the walls, but the air remembers. His expression doesn't move, but something flickers in his eyes. A quick, unreadable flick. You're imagining ghosts. Ghosts don't smell like adrenaline and regret. A silence stretches between us, thin as glass. Then he says, quieter than before, there were none like you. That shouldn't sound like a warning, but it does. He leaves, and the door seals behind him with that polite whispering click. For a while, I just stand there, breathing the leftover fear until it dissolves into night air. The city lights pulse below like 1,000 watching eyes. I tell myself I'm not prey, not yet, but the word bait from his mouth still echoes through my head. I lie down later, fully dressed, counting the seconds between the soft hums of hidden cameras. There's no scent of him in the sheets, no warmth in the room, but I can still feel that cold trace of winter lingering in my lungs. And that, more than the locked door, tells me the truth. I'm not trapped for pleasure. I'm trapped for study. And maybe, just maybe, that's worse. The penthouse hums at night. Not the kind of hum you hear, but the kind that crawls through your teeth when silence gets too clean. I've been counting seconds for hours, tracing patterns in the security system's rhythm. The soft click of cameras sweeping their arcs, the whisper of vents breathing. Every machine has a heartbeat. You just need to find it. I'm sitting cross-legged on the floor with Kain's forgotten tablet balanced on my knees. He probably thinks I didn't notice him leave it on the counter, a deliberate test, or maybe arrogance. Either way, I've always been good at taking gifts that weren't meant for me. The interface is locked behind corporate encryption, neat as everything else in his life. But beneath that, layered like bad code, is a maintenance panel. I find it by accident, or instinct, or maybe both. One command later, the door's magnetic lock sighs open. Observation requires containment, he'd said. Well, observation just got complicated. I move barefoot through the corridor, pulse syncing with the low drone of the HVAC system. Every step feels like walking on a lie. The elevator's off limits, of course, but there's a service exit behind a panel near the laundry chute. I slip inside, crawling down a metal staircase that smells of oil and dust. By the time I reach the garage level, my breath tastes like adrenaline. The city outside greets me with rain, not the romantic kind, the industrial kind, heavy, chemical, neon-stained. The air reeks of wet asphalt and gasoline, with the faint metallic scent of fur from passing wolves on night patrol. I pull my hood up and melt into the crowd. Freedom smells like smoke and risk. My comm bead crackles. River? Jules's voice, tired, fast. The kind of voice that's always running 2 sentences ahead. Yeah, it's me. Holy hell. You're supposed to be in. Long story. I'm out. Need a pickup near dockline. Pause. Are you sure that's smart? No. That's why it's urgent. He curses softly. Then, 5 minutes. Keep moving. Don't let them scent you. I laugh under my breath. Too late for that, partner. I keep to the alleys, counting cameras and corners. My heartbeat refuses to settle. I tell myself Kain won't notice I'm gone. Not immediately. He's too methodical, too confident. I've probably got an hour, maybe two. Then, I pass a shop window. The glass catches the reflection of headlights turning the corner behind me. Sleek, black, unhurried. The same make and model that carried me away from the auction. My stomach drops. I duck into a side street, pulse in my throat. The car doesn't accelerate, doesn't honk. It just exists there, steady as a decision, watching. For a wild second, I imagine he's letting me go. That he's just verifying the experiment. How far will the Omega run before breaking? I don't intend to break. Jules meets me in an abandoned district by the river. Old warehouses and cranes that died when the shipping industry did. The rain's coming down harder now, turning every shadow into movement. He looks rougher than I remember, hair soaked, hoodie clinging, beta scent sharp under the rain. "You look like hell," he says. "Missed you too." He hands me a towel and a thermos. Coffee, the cheap kind. "Don't say I never spoil you." I grin, sipping fast enough to burn my tongue. The heat steadies me. We take cover in one of the warehouses. Broken glass, rusted catwalks, the ghost of industry hanging in the air. Jules hooks his datapad into my stolen tablet, and lines of code bloom like veins on the cracked screen. "You still have the files?" he asks. "Hidden off-grid. The last batch includes names. People high up, council level." He whistles low. "That explains the bounty." "Bounty?" He looks at me, hesitant. "You didn't know?" There's chatter. "Someone paid for your silence. Alive or not." I stare at him. "Who?" Could be council, could be private buyers, could even be... A metallic click cuts him off. We freeze. Outside, footsteps. Heavy, deliberate. Rain dripping through roof holes turns every sound into static, but my instincts recognize the rhythm. Predators, wolves. "Run," I hiss. Jules kills the light. The warehouse plunges into wet darkness. Shapes move between the broken windows. 3, maybe 4. Guns, not claws. Hired hunters. Bullets shatter concrete where my head was a second ago. Jules swears, dives for cover. My pulse spikes. The air tastes of iron and fur. We scramble between crates, the world exploding in flashes. Muzzle flares, thunder, the stink of burning powder. I grab Jules's wrist, drag him toward a side exit. Then something slams into my back. Not a bullet, but a body. Big, fast, unrelenting. We hit the ground hard. My vision goes white. A boot presses my shoulder. "Target acquired," someone growls. Through the rain, I see a gloved hand raise a silencer. The shot never comes. A different sound splits the air. Not gunfire, but a low, resonant crack, like metal bending under pressure. The hunter jerks back, eyes wide. His weapon skitters away. Standing behind him, dark coat drenched, eyes reflecting every drop of neon, is Kain. He moves with terrifying efficiency. One hit to the solar plexus, one twist to disarm, one sweep of motion that ends in silence. 2 other attackers lunge from the shadows, and he deals with them like it's math. Exact, final. When it's over, the rain is the only thing still falling. He looks at me. His shirt's torn. His hands are steady. "You're hurt?" "Only my pride." My voice comes out hoarse. "What the hell are you doing here?" "Cleaning up your mistakes." Jules exhales sharply, backing away. "I'll go check the perimeter." Kain's gaze never leaves mine. "You think you're free out here? You're running from the wrong enemy." "Right," I snap. "Because you're not one of them?" His eyes narrow. "You're alive because I am not." That's supposed to be gratitude material? He steps closer, rain dripping from his hair, voice low enough to cut through the storm. "You're running from the one who protects you. You call this protection?" I shoot back. "You locked me in a penthouse." "A cage," he agrees. "But a cage is better than a grave." For a moment we just stare at each other, me shaking from cold and fury, him unreadable as always. Behind us, sirens start to wail somewhere in the city. Kain glances at the sound, then back at me. They'll send more. You're coming with me. I want to argue. I really do. But Jules is bleeding from a graze, and the hunters on the floor aren't the kind that work alone. So I nod, once. He turns, motioning toward a waiting car. His car. Of course. Always. One step ahead. As I climb in, wet and furious, I catch his reflection in the window again. Calm, soaked in shadows, the kind of man who doesn't flinch at killing. I tell myself I hate him. But as the city lights blur past us, and my heartbeat begins to slow, one thought claws at the back of my mind. A quiet, dangerous truth I don't want to admit. I'm not sure if I'm safer with him, or only because of him. Morning in the penthouse looks like a rendering, sun in clean rectangles on concrete. Glass tasting the sky, a city spread below us like a rumor that got out of hand. The kitchen almost passes for human. There's coffee at least. The scent is dark and sane, and for once the air isn't sterilized of everything. Kain stands at the counter, sleeves rolled, pouring with the precision of a surgeon calibrating a drip. No cologne, no warmth, just him and the morning, and a second mug set to his left like a decision already made. He slides it to me. You should eat. I should many things, I say, wrapping my fingers around the mug because heat is an argument I trust. Top of the list, know why I'm still here. You're alive, he says, because it's useful. The coffee sours on my tongue. Useful to whom? To the investigation. He doesn't wince over the word. To me, there it is, the part of the truth that has the worst manners. I set the mug down with a click. Say it plainly, Ashford. He meets my eyes, all Winter Lake steadiness. You are bait. The silence after is almost kind. Then my pulse rushes up to fill it. Bait, I repeat, just to hear how ugly it sounds in my mouth. The council has factions, he continues. Some prefer to terrorize their own and call it order. They tried to disappear you to kill the article and the precedent. If you're visible, they're exposed. If they chase you, we see who they are. And you? I tilt my head. You're the fisherman? Think of me as the line. I laugh, too sharp, generous metaphor. Does the line mind when the hook bleeds? It minds wasted blood, he says. I'm not your lure. My hands tremble, not from fear, from anger that keeps its receipts. I'm a journalist. I don't exist to accessorize your sting operations. His jaw tightens. You exist. Period. I'd like that to continue. And that, I say sweetly, is almost caring. It's calculation, he says, but something in his voice lands where I can feel it. Not soft, not cruel, real. The office next to the kitchen has a panoramic window that turns the city into a sermon about scale. He gestures me in. Files, actual paper, which somehow feels more intimate than code, lie open on the desk. Names, dates, transfers that arc between shell companies like lightning. My throat goes dry. I recognize half of them from my notes. The other half are ghosts I couldn't catch. So? He asks. So? I say, you're not lying. He nods once. They will try again. What a comfort. You wanted the system, he says. This is the spine of it. Break the right vertebrae, and the rest follows. And I'm the vertebra. Visible enough to draw pressure, he says. Stubborn enough to survive it. It should flatter me. Somehow it doesn't. He reaches for a pen. You asked for clarity. Let's formalize it. I raise a brow. Formalize being used. Formalize rules, he says, pulling a linen napkin off a tray like we're in a parody of civility. He writes in quick, elegant strokes, then turns it toward me. I hereby commit to not eating the omega without his consent. Kain Ashford. I stare at it. A laugh escapes before I can strangle it. Wow, a true gentleman. It's your word, he says dryly, not mine. I reach for the pen, add a line beneath his. The omega reserves the right to bite back. River Monroe. Reasonable, he allows, mouth threatening the ghost of a smile. We move to the table. He's made toast and eggs, which annoys me more than it should. We eat like people, not roles. The city hums, and the sun edges another square across the floor. Between sips of coffee, we argue. You don't see the difference between protection and possession, I say. And you don't see the difference between freedom and suicide, he answers, unruffled. Protection that cages isn't protection. Freedom that ignores predators is a myth, he says. You can choose your risks. You cannot choose the absence of them. Spoken like a man who never had to ask permission to breathe. His eyes flick to mine. I spend my life asking permission. From physics, from law, from the ghosts of people I couldn't save. The fork stills in my hand. The room tilts, just a little. He doesn't elaborate. He doesn't need to. The quiet fills in the outlines. A young alpha who learned that control is cheaper than grief. I set the fork down. Fine. Assume I don't jump out a window to prove a point. Assume I work with you. My conditions, no lies, no disappearing my notes, no deciding my choices for me. Agreed, he says. You didn't even negotiate. I prefer to keep promises I can keep. Big talk, I murmur. What does a promise look like in your world? Like this, he says, and the cadence of his voice changes. Older, shaped by something that isn't modern at all. He says a sentence I don't recognize. Crisp and resonant, syllables like knotted. String, by fang and bone, by breath and name, I bind my word to the living day. Air tightens. The hair along my arms lifts. Heat flares at the inside of my wrist, as if a match struck under skin. The napkin between us trembles. What did you just do? I whisper. Kain's eyes widen a fraction, enough to betray surprise. An old form, he says. I haven't used it since. He stops. It's a clan oath. It carries weight. The warmth at my wrist resolves into a thin, pale mark that fades almost, as soon as it appears, leaving a feeling like a string humming in bone. Not pain, not comfort. A pull. I curl my fingers over it. So now I'm, what, tagged? No. He's very careful with the word. You're witnessed. It binds me, not you. But if you break it, I ask. His gaze moves to the window, to the clean, bright morning. Then it breaks me. We sit with that. Eggs cool. Coffee thins. The napkin between us looks ridiculous and holy. I clear my throat. This doesn't mean I trust you. It means you want to, he says quietly. It lands like an admission I didn't intend to make. I look away, out over the city that wants to swallow us both and pretend it's mercy. My chest tightens with a feeling I refuse to name. We finish in fragments. Toast, a sip, another small argument about whether bait can carry a pen. When I stand, I expect the door to lock behind me again. It doesn't. Kain gathers the files, then pauses. We'll move tonight. Controlled exposure. You'll write. I'll watch. You mean you'll watch me be watched? Accuracy, he reminds me. I tuck the napkin into my pocket. Then be accurate about this. I'm not doing this because you said so. I'm doing it because it burns if I don't. Something like respect knots his mouth. Then we understand each other. Maybe we do. The sun shifts. Another bright square slides across the floor until it touches my shoe. For the first time since the auction, the warmth reaches skin it can keep. It isn't safety. Not yet. But it's a shape that points toward it. The cafe smells like vanilla and thyme. Wood tables buff to a soft shine. A bell over the door that tings like an apology. A pastry case that fogs when someone laughs too close. It's the kind of place that remembers first dates and last chances. Neutral ground. Or as neutral as this city gets. Luca picks the corner booth beneath a humming neon sign that says open even when it isn't. He's early. He's always early when anxiety runs the clock. He looks good in the way frightened people sometimes do. Clean, precise, every hair obeying a rule. Omega, like me, but smaller boned, softer around the mouth. He used to sleep with my jacket because it smelled like coffee and deadlines. Now he smells like caution and a cologne meant to say I'm fine. River, he says, standing halfway and then thinking better of it. His smile is a crease drawn with a dull pencil. You look like I lost a fight with a filing cabinet and won the moral victory, I offer, sliding in. You look safe. He flinches a little. I'm trying. The waitress pours coffee without asking. Vanilla curls up from the cup, comforting as a hand on the back of your neck. Gentle, owned. I wrap my fingers around the mug and pretend that's warmth, not memory. You shouldn't have called, I say quietly. The council doesn't like it when their people talk to me. Luca stares at the table. They don't like a lot of things. You being alive is near the top. He swallows. There's pressure. Someone paid for you to disappear. They're still paying. Payment's a language, I say. I'm bad at foreign languages. He huffs a laugh, looks up. The old spark is in his eyes for a second. Mischief, tenderness, but it gutters fast. You dug too deep, Riv. Deeper than you think. His voice drops. Stop. Please. I take a breath that tastes like vanilla and thunder. You know me better than that. I knew the version of you that believed love could be a door out. He shakes his head. Now, you keep breaking windows. Doors lock, I say. Windows at least have the decency to cut. Silence stitches itself between us. Outside, rain trails lazy lines down the glass. He tries again. They say you're with an alpha now. Ashford, is that complicated, I say. Luca's throat works. Complicated like protection? Or complicated like possession? The napkin in my pocket, I hereby commit to not eating the omega, rustles when I move. I think about Kain's oath, the old words tightening air like a knot. It binds me, not you. I believe him. I hate that I do. Both, I say. Neither, I don't know. Then let me be simple. Luca leans in, hands clasped to stop their shaking. If you keep this up, you'll die. And I don't. He swallows. I can't watch that. We used to share a studio with peeling paint and a window that stuck in the summer. I remember teaching him how to angle a headline, how to breathe through panic, how to kiss without promising. He wanted a future with scheduled tenderness. I wanted a world that didn't require permission slips to breathe. He chose safety. I chose story. It wasn't a betrayal. It was arithmetic. It still hurt like theft. The bell over the door tings. Kain doesn't belong here. The cafe knows it. The room shifts around him without meaning to. He's in a dark coat that drinks the light, rain laid flat by the heat of him. No visible weapons, only the sense of a man who won't need them. Luca sees him and sits straighter. Omega instincts bloom and close like a fist. Mine do something different. My pulse steps on the accelerator, and the thin, nearly gone warmth. At my wrist, the place the oath brushed me, flares once, as if checking the perimeter of my skin. Kain's eyes take in the table, the coffee, Luca's clasped hands, my jaw set at an angle that means I'm about to say something reckless. He doesn't speak until the waitress passes. Courtesy or camouflage. You're late, I say. I'm on time, he answers. I allowed you 10 minutes. He looks at Luca, then back at me. You don't need to explain yourself to those who already sold you. The words land like a blade laid flat against skin, cold, intimate. Luca flinches, color burning high in his cheeks. I feel my temper rise, quick and clean. The oath mark at my wrist warms, then brightens under the sleeve, just a faint glow, pale as a breath against glass. It startles me enough that I move my hand to my lap. And you? I say, voice soft in the dangerous way. Planning to sell me when the price goes up? Kain's expression doesn't change. You're not a commodity. Strange opinion from the man with the receipt. The waitress appears, uncertain, smiling too wide. Kain steps aside so she can set down a plate of lemon bars. He says thank you, like it's an oath too. When she's gone, the air tightens again. Luca clears his throat. I didn't sell him, he says, small and sharp. I told you to stop. That isn't the same as, you're working for people who buy silence, Kain says. You don't have to be the one counting the cash to be on the payroll. Luca looks at me, not at him. River, I swear. I thought if I stayed close, I could mitigate, keep the worst from happening. You mean to me? I ask. Or to you? He presses his lips together. Yes. The honesty hurts more than a lie would have. I take a sip of coffee that's gone cold. Kain's voice drops. We're leaving. Something in me bristles at the tone. I'm not done. You are, he says. There are eyes on this place. Luca's gaze flicks to the window, to the blur of a dark sedan idling too long across the street. He's right. I know he's right, I snap. That's not the point. The point, Kain says evenly, is that they're counting how long you sit still. We pay. Luca reaches too, guilt migrating into habit. I stop his hand. On the sidewalk, the rain has dialed down to a mist that sticks to skin like second thoughts. Kain positions himself to my left, one step behind, close enough to intercept, far enough to pretend it isn't about intercepting. Control as courtesy. Luca hovers. River. I know, I say. Be safe. You too. He hesitates, then, in a voice that used to be home, I'm sorry. I know, I repeat. So am I. He leaves first. He always was better at ending scenes. We walk in silence for a block. 2. The city unfurls its wet spine. Do not do that again, Kain says finally. What? Breathe unchaperoned? Meet sources without a plan that accounts for human error. A beat, or omega error. Ouch. I stuff my hands in my pockets, so he won't see the faint pulse at my wrist. The oath seems to be listening. Congratulations, you found a way to insult everyone. You invited the insult, he says. By trusting someone who already chose himself. I stop. He does too, immediately, turning so I can stare directly at the part of him that refuses to blink. You are a moral robot, I say, the words hot enough to steam. You calculate until the feelings die. He takes that without flinching. It's easier not to feel guilt that way. The admission knocks the wind out of me more effectively than a punch. He looks past me at the traffic, at the drip of light off wet asphalt, at everything that isn't my face. When he speaks again, it's softer. Guilt makes you slow, he says. And slow loses people. Who did you lose? The question leaps before I leash it. His jaw tightens. Enough. The glow at my wrist dims, a heartbeat receding. My anger drains with it, leaving something that hurts worse, understanding. Okay, I say, voice rough. Okay, then here's the deal. Don't choose for me. Don't decide my risks. Stand there. Be your precise self. Pull me out when I miscalculate, but don't mistake that for ownership. He nods once. Agreed. You didn't negotiate, I say, because humor is the only weapon that doesn't draw blood. I prefer promises I can keep, he says. We start walking again. The city breathes humid and tired. In the glass of a storefront we pass, I catch our reflections. Me in a borrowed coat that doesn't quite fit. Him in a shadow that always will. Between us, at my wrist, a pale flick of light. There and gone. For the first time, it doesn't feel like a leash. It feels like a witness. The office smells like burnt coffee and paper. Not the sterile kind from Kain's penthouse. This one's alive with electricity, dust, and old printer ink. Monitors cast slow-moving shadows across walls lined with corkboards and string maps. Somewhere in the next room, a fan squeaks like a bad conscience. Kain sits at one end of the long table, sleeves rolled, collar open. The faint blue glow from the screen cutting a line across his jaw. I'm at the other, typing, scrolling, cursing softly. Between us, piles of files, handwritten notes, USB drives, receipts for things people shouldn't sell. We've been at it for hours. The coffee's gone cold twice. I glance up. You know, for a guy who runs a massive operation, you have terrible formatting. Half these reports look like ransom notes. Efficiency isn't always aesthetic, he replies, without looking away from his screen. Sure, but you could at least pretend your data doesn't come from a 1990s crime show. The corner of his mouth twitches. It's microscopic, but real. Progress. On my monitor, numbers pulse in neat columns. Bank accounts, transfers, shell corporations. Money moves like blood, and I'm learning to read the arteries. This one, I tap the screen. The account that loops through 5 dummy charities, then ends up in a company called Gray Line Consulting. You see the pattern? Kain leans over, the light shifting as he studies the screen. His scent, clean, cold, metallic, cuts through the stale coffee air. That's council money, he says. They're feeding it through private contractors, funding the auctions, funding silence. We work in rhythm, I dig, he verifies. Somewhere between all the noise, a strange calm sets in. No cages, no orders, just 2 people elbow deep in a system that eats people for profit. It's almost domestic, in a sociopathic way. After a while, I lean back. So tell me something, Mr. Iceberg. What made you decide to fix the world from the inside? Guilt? Ego? Boredom? Kain doesn't look up from his tablet. Survival. That's vague. He sets the device down. Once, I tried running without a pack. It worked for a time. Then you learn how the system responds to lone wolves. By shooting them? By recruiting them. He looks past me, eyes reflecting the thin white glow of the monitors. I thought if I joined, I could keep the damage contained. But you can't build a dam out of rot. There's something in his tone. A quiet exhaustion that wasn't there before. It makes me pause. So you became the rot to fight it? Someone had to take responsibility for the blood on the floor, he says. Better me than someone who enjoys it. I want to make a joke, lighten the air, but it catches in my throat. Instead, I say softly, "You sound like a man who believes in redemption." "I believe in containment," he corrects. Redemption implies I still think I can be clean. The keyboard clicks between us, sound too loud after that. I go back to the files. Lines blur. My eyes sting. Then a name freezes me mid-scroll. Wait, look. I tilt the monitor toward him. Evan Corbett, Council Regulation Board. Kain straightens. He's a public official. And apparently, a private investor in 3 of the shell accounts tied to Gray Line. That's our link, Kain says. Calm, but I can feel the pulse behind the words. He oversees registration compliance. It gives him access to identities, addresses, auction stock. My skin prickles. He's selling his own people. Kain nods once. And you're going to write that? I stare at him. You want me to publish this? Yes. Even if it blows your cover? He meets my eyes. Especially then. For a second, I forget to breathe. He's dead serious. It's not self-sacrifice. It's strategy. A man who's already built his exit wound. Later, the clock drifts past midnight. The city outside has gone to sleep or to sin depending on its schedule. I'm writing. The kind of writing that pulls you apart and puts you back together as someone slightly less afraid. Headlines form like confessions. Council funds human trafficking. Internal evidence leaked. I type until the words stop shaking. Behind me, Kain moves quietly, refilling my cup. The sound of coffee pouring fills the silence like an anchor. He doesn't speak, just sets the mug beside me. The heat seeps through my sleeve, slow and grounding. Thanks, I murmur. He nods. You write better when you're caffeinated. You watch people a lot, I say. Only the ones who insist on dying interestingly. Charming, I say, but the corner of my mouth betrays me. I smile. He notices, but doesn't press. When I finish the draft, he's still there, arms folded, eyes soft with something I don't recognize yet. Maybe pride. Maybe fatigue. Maybe both. I save the file, shut the laptop, and finally look at him. If this goes out, the council won't just come for me. I know. And you? I've been a target longer than you've been alive, he says, not arrogantly, just stating a fact. At least now, the aim is justified. For once, I don't argue. The screens dim one by one, the hum of machines fading into quiet. We don't shake hands, we don't touch, but when he passes by, his sleeve brushes mine, and something about the contact, unintentional. Barely there, makes the mark on my wrist thrum once, faint as a heartbeat. He pretends not to notice. I pretend it doesn't mean anything, but we both know it does. The storm arrives like a verdict. Wind slams the glass, and the sky tears along a seam of white. The penthouse hums the way tall buildings do when they remember they're just bones stacked against weather. Lightning forks. Thunder answers with a crack so deep the windows tremble. Thin, spidering lines of stress racing through reflections. The city below goes glossy and mean. Jules paces, phone clamped to his ear, voice low. He said he needed to ping a source before we push the story. He's jittery in a way that isn't caffeine. Beta scent sharp, nervous. The clock is a drowned heartbeat. Kain stands by the console, hands light on the security display. We publish at 0200, he says. Synchronization matters. Right, I say, but Jules's tone needles me. I watch the way he's not watching me. The elevator locks cycle. Kain frowns, fingers quick across the panel. That's wrong. What is? I ask. Someone piggybacked his service credential. His eyes cut to Jules. Who has your other phone? Jules freezes. The storm presses its ear to the glass. Jules, I say, trying to keep the room from tilting. Tell me you didn't. He swallows. They have my sister, Riv. They called from her number. His voice fractures. They said if I gave them your location, they'd let her go. I thought I could warn you and fix it. I thought. The door explodes inward on the breath of another thunderclap. Men in matte armor flood the hallway. 2, 4, 6, muzzle flashes strobing the dark. The room fills with sound. Gunfire, shouts, the high brittle music of breaking glass. I hit the floor behind the island, ears ringing, mouth full of metal. Kain moves like the storm drilled with him. No wasted motion, everything efficient and final. 2 down in seconds. A third drops, tripping on the dead weight of his friend. And Kain disarms, breaks, silences. But there are more, always more. Run! Jules screams, and then a bullet kisses the console, and the lights die. Emergency strips glow blood red. Wind hammers the wounded windows. Someone throws a flash. White eats the world. In the afterimage, everyone is a shadow with teeth. A shot cuts Kain's shoulder. He staggers and keeps going, eyes lit from within by something older than reason. He catches my gaze for the smallest beat. Stay. The oath mark at my wrist flares, hot and bright, answering a command he didn't speak. Riv. Jules's hand claws at my sleeve, pulling me toward the service door. Move. I move, because movement is life, because the room is a mouth swallowing air. We crash into the back corridor, sprinting blind, the storm trying to pry the building apart around us. Behind, metal hits bone. Someone grunts. Kain curses once, rare and cold. We don't make it far. 2 figures pour from the stairwell. One slams Jules into the wall, the other rams a shock wand into my ribs. Pain knifes outward. My knees forget how to be knees. The taser taste blooms copper on my tongue. I fold, gagging. Hands yank my arms behind me. Slick plastic bites my wrists. Target secured, a voice says. Jules fights and loses. Don't hurt him, he gasps. Please. Should have thought of that earlier, the man says, and the wand cracks again. Quick light, black dark. The last thing I see before the hood drops is Kain, bleeding and relentless, taking 2 men with him as he goes down under a third. He hits the floor with a sound I feel in my teeth. The world goes cloth and noise. The van smells like damp wool, old rubber, fear. My stomach lurches with every turn. A hand presses my head down when I try to lift it. Voices code names between bursts of static. We stop. Rough hands drag me out. Rain needles my face. The hood yanks away. The place is some forgotten warehouse by the river. Rust, chains, the hymn of dripping water. A generator coughs in the corner. 6 men. 1 woman with eyes like frozen asphalt. And River, Luca's voice, wrecked and soft. He stands near the wall, wrists bound in front with zip ties, lips split. Cologne dulled by the sour fear of his own body. He looks like he hasn't slept in a week. Omega instinct flares between us. His pupils widen, throat moves. He takes a step and stops when the woman touches her gun. Don't, she says. Bored. We need him awake. Luca swallows. Please. He'll cooperate if you let me. I'll cooperate if you let him go, I say. She smiles without teeth. You'll cooperate because you breathe. Who's paying you, I ask, council or charity? She laughs. You journalists and your punchlines. She nods to a man with a camera phone. Smile. Proof of life. The lens stares. I stare back. Why, Luca? I ask quietly, not taking my eyes off the camera. Why are you here? They found me at work, he says, voice shaking. They said I could keep you from making it worse. For who? I ask. Me or them? His mouth opens, closes. Yes, something cold and old settles into my bones. Luca was always trying to be a bridge where there was only floodwater. It isn't betrayal. It's drowning without admitting there's a river. The woman taps her watch. Where's the failsafe key, Monroe? The one that unlocks your little article. Give it to us. And this ends with fewer bodies. Liar, I say, because telling the truth to liars is a hobby. She shrugs. Then we make a new example. Omega reporter disappears. Others learn to be quiet. Heat spikes under my wristband. A fast, bright burn. The mark hums, alive as a wire. The oath remembers him. It remembers me. It remembers promise. There are 3 ways to fight when you're smaller: teeth, speed, or chemistry. I was born with the last 2. I let the fear inside me change shape. I make it obedience, helplessness, the scent that says yield, then flip it. Quick as a card trick, into something that doesn't signal prey at all. Feral cornered cub, panic bright, sharp. It's not seduction. It's a biochemical shout that hits every wolf brain in the room where impulse lives. The nearest guard sways. The one behind him blinks hard, nostrils flaring, pupils blown. The woman curses, takes a step back, momentarily outside her own skin. Luca gasps, rocking like he's on a boat. Now, I whisper, and twist. I slam my shoulder into the man at my back, driving him off balance. He stumbles. I spin my wrists into his hands, forcing the zip tie against the edge of his belt buckle. Plastic bites, then snaps. I drop, kick his knee sideways. Something gives with a pop. Another lunges. I roll, grab the shock wand with my bound fingers, jam it into the tender strip above his boot. He goes rigid, eyes rolling. The wand arcs and cracks the air. The smell of ozone blooms. The woman recovers fast, leveling her gun, but Luca is suddenly there, clumsy and wild, hurling his bound hands against her wrist. The shot goes high, burying itself in ducting. Rain explodes through a new hole. Thunder applauds. 2 against 6 would be suicide, except the room is chaos and my pheromones are a mess of bad news. Half of them are breathing wrong, instinct in revolt. I throw the wand into the generator. Sparks scream. The lights spit and die. Night eats everything but rain and breath. Hands find me. I snake under them. A boot misses my ribs by a miracle. I punish the ankle. Someone collapses. The woman swears creative oaths and fires blind. The bullet kisses my shoulder like a bad secret and keeps going. I grit my teeth. Pain sharpens focus. River, Luca cries. Crawl, I say. Left. We make it to a stack of pallets. My wrists are bleeding but free. I cut Luca's ties on a nail that's kinder than most people I know. He squeezes his hands, pain-drunk, eyes shining with something that might be awe or terror. You did that with your... He gestures helplessly at the air. Biology, I say. Don't tell anyone. I have a reputation. A figure looms. I go low. Luca goes high. We hit together. The man drops, skull ringing the concrete. I take his gun. My hands shake. I don't shoot. I aim at the ceiling and fire 3 times, because noise is an ally when order belongs to the other side. Sirens answer from far away. Or maybe it's just the storm performing sympathy. Footsteps recede. Orders hiss. The woman barks fallback, and the night breathes out as the survivors retreat into it. I sag against the pallets, lungs burning, shoulder wet. Rain needles my face through the new holes in the roof. My chest trembles and then steadies. Luca touches my arm, careful, reverent. They called you prey, he says, voice broken bright. I close my eyes, let the blood sing thin and fierce. They did. He squeezes harder. But the hunter is the one who knows where the teeth are. I open my eyes. The oath mark at my wrist glows once, small and sure, as if agreeing. Exactly, I say, and the word tastes like iron and victory. Somewhere, not far enough, thunder answers, and beyond it, if I listen past the rain, past the ringing, in my head, I think I hear another sound, a car door, a steady tread, a wolf refusing to stay down. Kain will come, or he won't. Either way, I'm standing when he does. The hall of the council glitters like judgment. Marble floors stretch underfoot, polished to a mirror's honesty. Glass ceilings drip with daylight that never warms. Flags of the great clans hang in symmetrical rows, each one embroidered, with emblems that once stood for protection, but now feel like warnings. My footsteps echo. They built this place to make people feel small. It works. The guards at the entrance search my bag and find nothing dangerous except the truth. Inside, a single drive, encrypted, loaded with the data we pulled from the auction files, proof of who profits from the buying and selling of omegas. Proof that freedom has a price tag. I keep my chin high when they lead me into the chamber. Counselor Evan Corbett waits at the head of the room, framed by two banners, gold and crimson, the colors of sanctified control. His suit gleams like armor. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. Mr. Monroe, he greets. You've been difficult to find. I've been busy trying not to die, I reply. You're welcome for the suspense. He chuckles, always with the jokes. You could have brought your handler. He's not my handler. No? Corbett tilts his head. Kain Ashford works for the same system you claim to despise. You think he's your savior? I think he's bleeding for a cause you've sold, I say. And I came here to expose it. He sighs theatrically, walking toward me, shoes clicking against marble. Let's skip the moral outrage, shall we? You've read the documents. You know the auctions were never about pleasure or power. They were about regulation, containment. He circles me like a teacher correcting a slow student. Do you have any idea what chaos omegas caused before the registry? The riots, the blood feuds? Your kind needed structure, discipline. The auctions, ugly, yes, but necessary. The system keeps balance. Balance? My voice cracks. You're just rearranging chains and calling it peace. His smile widens. We keep the population stable, the alphas obedient, the betas productive. Everyone wins, except, perhaps, the idealists who can't stomach reality. Something inside me snaps. Reality is what you rewrite every time someone vanishes. You label it regulation so you can sleep at night. Corbett's calm falters. Careful, Monroe. I could erase you with a single line of code. Then do it, I say. But the file's already set to broadcast if I disappear. That stops him. His face tightens, the mask cracking. You think you're clever. I think you're afraid. Before he can answer, the side doors burst open. Kain steps through, coat torn, blood seeping dark through the fabric at his shoulder. Rain streaks down from outside. He's walked through the storm to get here. The guards aim their rifles instinctively, but his presence stops them mid-motion. He's pale but standing, a living contradiction between civility and violence. Corbett recovers first. Ashford, he says, mock delighted. I assumed you died cleaning up your own mess. Not yet, Kain says. His voice is ice, cracking under heat. And it's your mess I've been cleaning. He limps closer. Our eyes meet, and for a heartbeat, everything stills. The council, the guards, even the lights seem to hold their breath. You shouldn't be here, I whisper. Neither should you. His smile is a ghost. Corbett raises a hand. Touching reunion. Let's end the drama, shall we? You both wanted truth? Fine. Ashford bought you, Monroe, not to save you, but to stop a war. A war you nearly caused. My stomach drops. What? Kain doesn't flinch. He's right, he says quietly. I bought you to prevent escalation. Your article would have detonated the fragile treaty between clans. Thousands would have died. I laugh. Sharp. Breaking. You bought me to stop a war, and what did you get instead? He meets my eyes. A fire. The words hit harder than a bullet. Corbett claps slowly. Poetic. Shame it ends here. Guards move forward. Kain reacts first, fast despite the injury. One swing disarms the nearest soldier. Another shot grazes marble, sending white dust spiraling. I duck behind the podium as chaos erupts. Corbett shouts something into a communicator. The glass above us fractures with the first bullet. I grab the drive from my pocket, slam it into the council's central terminal. Screens flicker one by one as files flood the network. Evidence, names, transactions, everything. Kain fights his way toward me, but there are too many. Blood streaks down his side. He knocks one guard unconscious, blocks another with his arm. "River," he yells. I've got it. My fingers fly over the keyboard. It's uploading. Corbett lunges for the panel. Kain intercepts him, and the two crash against the marble stairs. Lightning flashes outside, illuminating them. Predator against predator, system against conscience. The lights surge, then die, and then heat. Not fire, not electricity. Something older. The mark on my wrist ignites, light spilling out of skin like molten gold. Across the room, the same light burns under the tear in Kain's sleeve. The air between us trembles, and for a moment the storm outside moves in time with our hearts. The oath. The blood promise. It's awake. The glow expands, bridging distance. It hums. A pulse of recognition, of equality, not master and servant, not alpha and omega, just two beings bound by choice. Corbett stumbles back, shielding his eyes. What is that? Kain's voice cuts through the roar. Something you can't regulate. He reaches me. The light between us flares brighter until the glass shatters outward, shards raining into the storm. Every screen lights up at once. The data, the crimes, the proof, all broadcasting live across the open network. I stare as my own words scroll across the monitors. The auction of the chosen. The price of control. Corbett screams at the guards to stop it, but it's too late. The world is already watching. Kain catches my wrist, steadying me. His hand is warm despite the blood. "You did it," he says, voice raw. "No," I say, meeting his eyes. "We did." The light between us flickers, then fades, leaving only the storm's silver glow. The mark cools against my skin, no longer a chain, just a reminder. Corbett collapses to his knees as alarms wail through the building. Kain looks down at him without triumph. "Containment," he says softly, "is over." We walk out together through the shattered doors, rain drenching the marble behind us. The city's skyline blinks alive with the headlines that will change everything. Freedom doesn't sound like victory. It sounds like thunder finally exhaling. A week later, the city finally sounds like breathing. Rain has given way to sunlight, the kind that hits the windows just right. Warm, gold, slightly smug. From my apartment, the skyline looks less like a cage and more like a pulse, traffic gliding, air humming, people moving without fear. Freedom has a noise. It's quieter than you'd think. The newspapers lie scattered across my table, headlines printed in fonts too bold to whisper. Council dissolved. Registry reformed. Auctions outlawed. Someone finally used the word slavery in an official statement. That's new. I sit on the couch, laptop open, scrolling through the aftermath, interviews. Speculation, promises that won't survive a week in politics. My name is in a few of the articles. River Monroe, investigative journalist, and whistleblower. They make me sound brave. I still wake up at 3 a.m. thinking about the warehouse and the way lightning split the glass in the council chamber. When the doorbell rings, I already know who it is. The air shifts, steady, confident, somehow heavier than weather. I open the door. Kain stands there, half in sunlight, half in shadow. His arm is still bandaged, but he looks alive in a way I haven't seen before. Lighter. Maybe that's what freedom does. It untangles the lines around your mouth. He offers the faintest smile. "You look disappointed." "Expecting the mailman?" "I was hoping for coffee delivery," I say. "But I guess a fallen alpha will do." He huffs a laugh, low and reluctant. "They really did it. Fired me. Officially stripped of all positions and privileges. Congratulations." I step aside to let him in. You finally joined the rest of us mortals. He crosses the threshold, like someone testing new ground. Strange, he murmurs. I spent most of my life trying not to feel human. Now it's all I want. That's progress, I say. Or a midlife crisis. He glances around the apartment. Coffee mugs, papers, the faint smell of burnt toast. You always wanted this kind of chaos? It's honest. I close the laptop and turn toward him. No surveillance, no marble floors, no political corpses in the corner. Just burnt toast and truth. I can live with that. The silence that follows isn't awkward. It's something else. Space, finally earned. I pull a folded paper from the stack on the table. Actually, I have something for you. Kain arches a brow. Another exposé? Better. I unfold it with theatrical slowness. On the page, handwritten in ink that smudged a little at the edges, is the following. Contract of equal terms. Ownership rights, cancelled. Kisses, mutual. Interference with free will, prohibited, except in emergencies involving coffee. Term, indefinite. Signed, R. Monroe. Witness, space intentionally blank. Kain stares at it, and for the first time since I met him, he laughs. Really laughs. It's not the sharp, controlled sound of strategy. It's warm, rough, unguarded. This is legally worthless, he says. Perfect, I reply. You're finally off the payroll. He looks down at me, and the smile softens into something else, something real. You know, River, I never meant for it to end like this. Neither did I. But I'm glad it did. So am I. We stand there, inches apart, the paper between us like the last old rule about to be broken. Clause 2, I say, nodding toward the contract. You haven't signed yet. He takes the pen, scribbles his name, and without hesitation adds one more line. Addendum. Enforcement, immediate. Before I can make a joke about his handwriting, he leans down and kisses me. It's not the cautious kind or the desperate kind. It's the after the storm kind, warm, slow, steady, the kind that feels like a promise to stop running. When we pull back, I can't help but grin. That's clause 2 confirmed. He smirks. Should we draft clause 3? Let's leave something for the sequel, I say. Outside, the city keeps breathing. The flags that once hung over the council chambers are gone. Somewhere, someone is rewriting the rules, not in blood this time, but in ink. I close the window, toss the contract onto the table, and turn back toward him. For the first time in too long, the future doesn't feel like a threat. It feels like a beginning. Morning has a way of forgiving everything. Sunlight spills across Kain's apartment, no longer a fortress of glass and control, but a home that remembers to breathe. The coffee maker hums in the corner. Newspapers lie half-read on the counter. Headlines already fading beneath the smell of roasted beans and ink. I'm at the table, laptop open, fingers chasing a thought that's almost a heartbeat. The headline blinks on the screen. As prey, a story about wolves, rights, and what comes after. It's not a manifesto. It's not vengeance. It's a beginning. An article about choice, equality, the new laws that grew from ashes. About omegas who stopped whispering, alphas who started listening, and betas who realized they'd been the quiet balance all along. Luca's edits arrive in real time, polite notes, terrible grammar. Jules sends voice messages full of caffeine and optimism. The three of us are building something bigger, a network for the ones who never had a voice. I joke that I'm surrounded by redemption arcs. They joke that I'm impossible to edit. Everyone's right. Behind me, I hear slow steps and the faint rustle of a newspaper being abandoned. Then warmth, steady, familiar, presses against my back. Kain's breath finds the spot just below my ear. You're working early, he murmurs, voice still rough with sleep. Deadlines don't respect romance, I say, saving the draft. He leans closer, his nose brushing my neck. You smell like danger again. Good, I say, smiling. Let them know who I belong to. He chuckles against my skin. That's not how equality works, you know. Then call it mutual ownership, I counter, turning to face him. Clause 2 still stands. Mutual kisses? He asks. Enforced, daily. He laughs, low and honest, and steals one before I can argue the schedule. The coffee timer beeps. The city outside hums. Buses, chatter, the soft rhythm of ordinary life. For the first time in years, the sound doesn't feel distant. It feels like it includes us. Kain pours 2 mugs and hands me one, careful not to spill. "You'll make yourself a target again," he says, nodding toward the article. "Maybe," I admit, taking a sip. "But at least this time, I'm not running alone." He sits beside me, our knees brushing under the table. And, for a while, there's nothing but sunlight, laughter, and the scent of coffee. No chains, no hierarchy. Just 2 predators learning how to share the morning.